Why did America even get involved in the Vietnam War? Think about it. What do we even have to gain in the first place? To stop the spread of communism in a country that's pretty far away from us and our own problems? Very few people look back at that war and think it was a good idea. And I think we could boil it down to 3 main reasons as to why US involvement in Vietnam was not worth it at all. The first reason is that the goal to stop the spread of communism was pointless to begin with. The US government believed in the domino theory, which was that if one country falls to communism, then it's only a matter of time before the whole world follows it. So it's America's duty to get involved in these foreign conflicts to stop this from happening. This is not only not true, but most likely pushed a lot of communist states closer to China and Russia for support, and made communism more secure in places like North Korea and Cuba. Domino theory doesn't consider different countries' circumstances and why they became communist in the first place. North Vietnam was communist because they associated communism with getting rid of their French colonizers. And Cuba became communist largely because of its spite against American exploitation of them. It's not like just because Vietnam fell to communism, then India or Indonesia would do the same right after in response. That's pretty stupid to assume that in the first place. It should have been clear to America that communism was a broken system, and that it would only be a matter of time before it inevitably dies out. Instead, we decided to get involved in useless wars at great cost to ourselves, which leads me to my next reason, which is that the cost far outweighed the potential benefit. The United States spent over $1 trillion on Vietnam and forced nearly 60,000 young Americans to die fighting a brutal guerrilla war. Not only that, we killed over 1 million Vietnamese in our various bombing runs against them and destroyed countless lives. We rallied the American public against the war and caused great social unrest and distrust of the government to grow across the country. And for what? So that some impoverished Southeast Asian country 7,000 miles away doesn't completely fall to an ideology that we don't really like? Leaders like Lyndon B really didn't think this one through. Even the British weren't on board with intervening, and that's sort of their whole thing. This leads me to my final reason why the Vietnam War was stupid, and it was that it tarnished America's global image for no reason at all. America's use of brutality against the Vietnamese, like their use of napalm against civilians, destroyed any moral credibility that the US had for intervening, if they even had any at all. The various massacres and war crimes committed by US troops, like in the Lai Massacre, showed the world that America was just as bad, if not worse, than the North Vietnamese, and they really only cared about themselves rather than the people of Vietnam. They also backed a pretty brutal dictator, which contradicted their whole idea of spreading democracy and freedom against the horrible communists. Vietnam was the first big instance of America intervening in a much weaker country for no good reason, and causing a massive amount of destruction and suffering, which is a tradition that future US presidents would unfortunately carry on across the world.